Aloha. I just wanted to do a quick video. I'd been on this little... Oh, this is just some ridiculous ass shit. I started out with the Owen Benjamin live stream, and then I started writing things down that they would say because I was hearing the correlations between the approach, the styles of how Bob from Glowbusters was interacting with the panel last night in Bro Sanchez's live stream. The deflection tactics and the defense mechanism, but I've seen this web right now. So apparently what happened is Joe Rogan, to give you a basic outline of what's going on, because it doesn't really matter, that's why I don't spend too much time on it, but for some people they like to either research a lot of this stuff or piece things together. But it's another good way to explain sort of how these things are piecing together by using these individuals as examples of a deeper issue, deeper problems, because they are representatives of a larger group of people who think the same way as them. And some of them come and are starting to attack me now in the comment section of my videos because they don't, just same way Bob from Glowbusters didn't know how to respond or even understand what I was saying in that live stream. There are individuals who have only one way of thinking, basically another belief system, instead of actual research and acknowledging what the information is really about. They take defense, want to label you, and then, you know, run on their high horse and then talk and do their whole thing. That's that whole world. It's not really interested in dealing with the cancer. It's all dramatized. It's all reaction based. It all has to be some kind of, it's never about empowering the people. So like even like even like telling people to, or sharing the benefits of researching the history of, you know, your relationship to the land, your ancestors, those storylines. A lot of those people, when they're telling you that we're just human, they're telling, and specifically I'll personalize it to this channel and, you know, what I share. When I share what I share, all that information, I'm sharing that because I see a big hole in the so-called truth community that doesn't address this giant web of white supremacy mind control that exists very easily. You don't have to be a deep conspiracy theorist researcher to see this, you know, this reality existing. This is a part of the truther community. This information will not be silenced. I don't give a fuck how loud or how fucking bitchy you guys get about your we're all human, we need to unify fucking bullshit. We need to heal before we start doing anything. And a lot of these wounds have not even been acknowledged, yet alone healed. So please, calm the fuck down. Do your own research before you start, you know, coming at me about, you know, calling me racist and all this other stuff. This is just another, I did just address that real quick before I go into this, because it is a good segue into what I just observed with Owen Benjamin's live stream, this recent series of events with Alex Jones exposing Joe Rogan for some, you know, hardcore racism that is on tape. Like, it's a video, so you can look it up now. I'm not going to play it. I'm not even going to link it. I don't even know where it is. It was on somebody else's channel doing a review on it. But basically what Joe Rogan said was, let me see what he wrote it down. So that he was just in a podcast or something, and he walked into the Planet of the Apes movie, and he said, "Oh, he wasn't joking. He was explaining. He was like, oh, we walked into Planet of the Apes, and we walked into the actual Planet of the Apes. There were no white people there. It was all black people. We were in Africa." So he's basically calling black people apes in that moment and that whole thing, and he was just being real like nonchalant about it and just real like cool about it. And then Alex Jones is trying to destroy, or appearing to try to destroy, Joe Rogan. So he brings this information out and he gets behind it and he wants to dramatize it. This is it. They're all about drama. They don't care about the actual information or truth. It's all a fucking movie. It's a big ass TV show. The actual addressing of the roots of the problem within the power system of this establishment, like by empowering the people and talking about the truth, the blood and the bones of these storylines, people don't want to talk about that. They want to talk about either the reactionary Illuminati bullshit, or they want to talk about the new age, we're all one, it's all human. They never want to talk about the stuff in the middle. The people who are always, caught up in the wash in the middle. It's always the extremes of either you're this or you're that. No, fuck that. These voices will not be silenced. You can kiss my ass. As long as I got a voice, I'm gonna say some shit. So fuck you for trying to tell me I'm wrong, for telling you and other people that we need to be talking about some shit. Y'all call yourselves truthers and conscious and all this shit. Get the fuck out of here with all that. There's a whole 3/4 of truth in this whole reality y'all ain't even fucking touched on. In fact, it's threatening to even talk about it. Y'all are threatened when we talk about this information. Kiss my ass. Kiss my ass 10 times the fuck over. Fuck y'all. There's so much information it's an abundance of fucking information out there that we should be sharing to the umpteenth degree. So I'm gonna share every fucking detail of information I can, because on the other end, there's nobody saying this information in those circles. That every single meme you saw on there, you probably get one or two. That little Bill Gates one on there. But the theme that was throughout that video, people, this is specific to the previous video that I just uploaded today. They understand, in the whole truther communities, this is putting a big ass spotlight on the whole division in the idea of a truther community, the idea of a flat earth community. See, even the flat earth community didn't realize how divided it was until that fucking dumbass behind the curve shit came, and then Bob has to come on the Bro Sanchez TV shit and then talk about, oh yeah, this is what the story is really about. Basically saying the same thing Mark Sargent said. That we need to stick to the specific message. Okay, you want to put me on blast for not being specific? Or I ask you again, what is the specific message? They won't say that. They'll never say that. They can't, because that's too specific. And that's why when I get real specific of, talking about, how I've broken down things, it's incomprehensible. Literally, it was incomprehensible to him. That's what he was saying. So the distractions that are being pawned off and amplified with this race agenda, this controlled demolition of racism, the same way with the controlled demolition of dealing with the colonial system or the patriarchal system, with so-called patriarchal system, with this fake women's empowerment movement. It's all a big TV show. The same way the civil rights doggy treats, where it was a bullshit ass just concession. We just suck up all these concessions of this reality instead of dealing with the actual situation. We never address the origins of the cancer. So the individuals that you're looking at right now, the Joe Rogans, the Alex Jones, the Owen Benjamins, they are existing to focus your intention, your focus, your everything, to focus it on the reaction, to focus it on the surface layer situation that doesn't address the core, the roots of the empire itself. And beyond that, the empowerment of the people. That will never be, it will always be dramatized. That's why it was such a dramatic fucking thing. We look at how many subjects we could have gotten deep on if, Bob didn't spend most of his time trying to defend himself by demonizing Vegan Warrior. I pointed that out in the chat. That's because I once I saw that trend, I bounced out of there. I was like, man, fuck this. I'm not gonna be around here while he, tries to get on his high horse by bashing down Vegan Warrior over and over and over again. It was obvious. It was really, really obvious that he was using that as a deflection tactic. He was using that to not talk about the real issues or any kind of deeper issues. That's why that's another reason. I'm glad I remember that. That's why when he asked me, do you know Vegan Warrior? That's when it actually started, because he knew exactly what he was going to do. And rewind that tape and check that shit out, because that's when he started that whole bashing thing. Maybe he did it before I even got there. I don't know. But check it out and see if I'm right about this situation. When he asked me if I know it, or if Vegan Warrior is my friend. Break this shit down, because people are very smart when they watch this. Listen to how he's talking. That's why I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because in reality, I had never really ever had a conversation with Vegan Warrior. In fact, I've only gotten 2 emails, and those were just today, in response to that damn live stream. And that was so it was just like, I was like, why is he asking me about Vegan Warrior? It was just like, it got my antennas up for a second. I was like, oh, what the hell is this? And then that's why it felt kind of weird that he was egging, he kept kind of pushing the relationship. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, wait a second. He might have been trying to push our closeness because he wanted to try to bash me in that same circle. But he only got half of the situation, because I firmly told him the truth, which was, we can't call ourselves friends. I don't know him yet. I mean, he seems like a cool dude, but we ain't had no conversations like that or nothing like that. So that's what it is. That's why he was like, but you're not friends? I was like, no, motherfucker, this is just, didn't you hear my fucking answer the first time? So that means he had an intention he had something attached to me having an attachment to Vegan Warrior. Now look back at that whole video and how he was bashing him and how he was just shutting me down by not even acknowledging. He literally was just basically calling me incomprehensible. I'm incomprehensible because his ass can't understand what the fuck I'm saying. That's a defense tactic, to just not answer. Just to call me, just basically call me crazy. You can't understand what I'm saying? There's a whole bunch of fucking people on there. It was like 400 some people that understood, that was on this chat. I'm not saying all of them understood what I'm saying, but it's a whole bunch of out of that 400 that know exactly what the fuck I'm saying. You can't understand any of that? How the fuck? What the hell? Just, get the fuck out of here, man. This is some bullshit. So you see what I'm saying. Anyway, these are defense mechanism tactics. These are dramatization of the surface layer. Dramatization of the kiddie pool, dramatization of the shallow waters, telling you it's deep, but they ain't talking about nothing deeper than the waiting room of the empire. They ain't never getting to the roots of the problem. They ain't never getting to the blood and the bones of the ancestors of they ain't even talking about colonialism. They ain't even, none of them. Everything starts after Make America Great Again. All of them are protecting that system. That's why they are out there, to make it look like it's so complex. But it's not complex. They're all doing the same thing. That's what I want to emphasize, at least on this video. So Owen Benjamin is actually starting to defend. It seemed like he's starting to defend Joe Rogan. I'll tell you why in a second with these words. So yeah, Joe Rogan said that, the Planet of the Apes thing, and then he said something else. Oh, that's what he said because I wrote it down. It was the yeah, he when he was talking about there was a mixed race brother on his podcast. I think he was, yeah, so-called Black and White. And what Joe Rogan basically said, I'm paraphrasing all this stuff, everything, and the quotes are, yeah, not word for word. So anyway, he basically said, what did he say? You're getting, you hit the jackpot. You're getting the body of the black gene genetics and the brains of the white genetics. And then, yeah, so, and this is a thing that these totally, it's a sickness really to not acknowledge something and then create an entire world from that not even acknowledging of another world. So they basically built an entire consciousness on top of the synthetic, like astroturf. That's basically what that is. He built that phrase, that statement is like building a castle on astroturf and saying it's like an organic, thing, but it's like the Beetlejuice land. That kind of consciousness is like the Beetlejuice. It's like that cardboard. I'm getting real kind of like colorful in my explanations here. I'm speaking to a specific kind of people right now as far as thought processes go. So if you're not picking up what I'm talking about, then just be patient. I'll get there in a moment. But people, I like going off on these tangents like that for yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Joe Rogan said that ignorant ass shit. It's an example of creating an entire universe on the astroturf and then calling it like a reality. Same thing like heliocentrism. And what I'm saying is that don't focus only on the race. Just stop not including it. Let me say that again. Stop telling us to not focus on the race and start acknowledging that it's not being included as much as it should be. That's obvious. I can use a should right there because that's extremely obvious. That part of the story, look at the fucking screen you're looking at right now. These are the assholes who are supposed to be talking about the whole story of the world and all this other shit. Alex Jones literally talks about the globalists, and Joe Rogan has everybody. He's in the whole political circles and all. As far as all, and let me also anchor this into this surface layer bullshit. I'm just using this as, stories to see examples of this shit. I really don't pay this shit no mind. But to interpret this stuff, it helps people, see, it helps me think too. It's not just like, and then I add on to this stuff too. So anyway, Joe Rogan said that ignorant ass shit that exists in, tens of thousands, millions of people. They have that same thought process. When people they're putting that shit out on the waves. That's no different than television. What do you think these fucking podcasts are? They're more direct frequency waves than the actual television because they're coming from a direct consciousness, a direct fucking dumbass fuckhead like Joe Rogan and an ignorant, arrogant ass dramatic actor like Alex Jones. It's the same shit. They all one storyline doing the same shit. So yeah, Alex Jones is like, I'm gonna tell on you, Joe Rogan. I'm gonna say everything. You're a bad racist guy. Even though we used to be friends back in the '90s, we used to be really good friends, and we're both really heavily into our bodies, and we used to be really good friends. They're gonna kiss and make up very soon. Watch, they gonna make up. That's how those actors are. Fucking bullshit. So anyway, the role he's playing, he's telling Joe Rogan, you're a bad person. He's sicking the mainstream dogs on him. That's what he's doing. He's telling the mainstream, hey guys, you need to get angry at Joe Rogan, and all his team members gonna be like, yeah. So Owen Benjamin is in that little circle too, and what the whole storyline is, when I saw it, I just got off of there real quick. Now, think of all this in context. Like, those two things that I just said about what Joe Rogan just said, about the whole Planet of the Apes thing, and then the white people's brains are superior to black people's brains. And they're getting this from, they get that arrogant consciousness from numbers like the IQ. This is why science and the university system is so intertwined within the white supremacy agenda, the white supremacy mind control program. You guys think, I say you guys because the people who are still like, itching to get into the comment section for me to finish so they can start, typing away about how racist I am. Look at how this system is inherently, racist, but a lot of people don't even talk about this. They don't talk about the infrastructure of racism itself, the origins of racism itself. This is not addressed. They'd rather attack an individual because it's more dramatic, it's easier, it's more tangible. But the intelligence, why isn't that intelligence being focused on addressing the issues itself, healing the wounds of the situation itself? So keep in mind the drama effect. Anyway, Joe Rogan said that shit. That's a whole consciousness. That's a frame of thought. You have Alex Jones just being the tattletale, basically, trying to get his, street cred up in the mainstream, and, get his name back, and take down Joe Rogan, and, play like a bigger character or role in the world. Mind you, the success of Alex Jones is still tied to Donald Trump. This is why this is happening like this, because it makes it more real. It makes it more real for the viewer to do this, because Donald Trump was on Alex Jones's InfoWars before then. So this is that whole, and this is tied into that wall thing. So it now enter in Owen Benjamin today on a live stream, talking about, saying literally, this is what he said. I wrote it down specifically. Statistically speaking, white people are smarter than black people. Statistically speaking. So he's referring to the IQ thing. So this is the whole white supremacy mind control program that I referenced before, that allows them to remain the authorities of speaking, the authorities of speaking topics. See, Bob did the same thing in the live stream. They make themselves as the authorities of speaking topics to control the narrative. So Bob wanted to make the demonization of Vegan Warrior the speaking topic to control the narrative of getting his street cred up, but not from actually, doing the legwork of, really relating to what we were talking about. So he doesn't know how to relate to what we were talking about. He just has, so that's why he has to overcompensate and say, I 100% agree. Count how many times he says, I 100% agree with you, completely agree with you. And then he just says, his agenda. He just says his like surface layer bullshit, and then they just kind of co-opt, your moment. They co-opt it by just saying I 100% agree, but they don't really give a fuck about you. They ain't gonna talk about what you talking about. You don't really give a fuck about it. They just 100% agree. That's it. It's all just surface layer. He's not really interested in what you're and the point is, like I said, they're not dumb enough. They're not that dumb to. He's not that dumb to be like totally incomprehensible to what I'm saying. Either you're. So the two options are either you're that dense, like you can't really comprehend what I'm saying, or you're not wanting to comprehend what I'm saying for some reason. Are those the only two options? Or and then your option, obviously, what you said about me is that I'm incomprehensible. I'm not making sense. Like I'm not able to be specific. It's open to up to interpretation. Obviously, you got your own opinion. I see it my way. Other people gonna see it other way. Whatever. So, what did he say? Yeah, so Owen Benjamin. So I'm thinking about, like I said, to keep this in context and time and everything. This Joe Rogan thing, the video that I saw just broke on the 15th. So I guess that was 2 days ago. And Owen Benjamin's live stream, the information that I'm talking about right now was said a few minutes ago today. Statistically speaking, white people are smarter than black people. So first of all, they're not addressing the terminology white and black, which is one miss. It's another unhealed wound, another fucking just thing that's accepted in their language that we don't accept. That's why I say so-called most of the time. Sometimes I miss it, but I mean so-called all the time because I want to start engaging on a deeper conversation where in these conversations they're not even acknowledging that it's a problem. They still accept it. And then they play it. Not only do they accept it, but they build superiority on it. This motherfucker just said today in 2019. In 2019, this motherfucker just said, statistically speaking, white people are smarter than black people. There's so much more than that. So I don't want to kind of like over dramatize this or emphasize this too much because I know there's this whole race agenda that's being manipulated and pawned off by the mainstream and midstream media and all that other shit, conspiracy story. I see all that, and it's even more obvious in this Joe Rogan, Owen Benjamin, Alex Jones little threesome they got going on. Statistically speaking, all right. And then he says right after that, that's not racism, obviously, because he feels uncomfortable about it. So he has to defend himself. That's not racism. These are his words right after he says that. So I don't have to go into detail on why that is, inherently racist. It's obvious. But for, shits and giggles. Back to the theme of what I was saying earlier in this video, these individuals, these surface layer consciousness beings who never go beyond the colonial, at least the colonial cancer that's infested this entire earth, that is a part of the all these other systems too. I speak on these issues because I see, like I said in the last video, I see a giant hole in many of these communities. They miss a lot of this stuff. I wouldn't be saying most of this shit if I had heard it, in many different places. I don't. Not the way that I'm saying it. I always hear, some other version, and a lot of the times, it's just its own thing, and it's cool. It's it. But, I'm talking about things that are, obvious to me, and they're obvious to other people too. So, yeah, in 2019, February 17th, statistically speaking, white people are smarter than black people. Owen Benjamin. Then he says, that's not racism. So obviously, not getting to the core, not realizing that. Well, it's ignorant. That's first and foremost. It doesn't even need to be. It's ignorant on every level. But beyond that, which is the obvious thing, which is a lot of people, some people need because they don't really. Some people don't really hear this, is that because they don't know that why it's racist sometimes, and whatever. It's quick anyway. Um, what assholes like this don't acknowledge when they say stuff like that is the systematic oppression of a particular people for a particular reason, in reference to, in many situations, you can work your way all the way up back up, but I'm going to say it again, the white supremacy mind control program. I'm not saying this as if it's my only focus. There's fucking, like I keep saying this, there's almost 1,000 videos on this channel. There's many different topics that I talk about, but I speak on a lot of these topics the way I speak about them because they're current. They're current with a lot of the things that are going on. And people just throw stuff around real easily, but there's no accountability with a lot of stuff. That's why I make a lot of these videos. So if you want to know more information about what I'm talking about, but other specific stuff, go ahead and look through the video section on this YouTube channel. There's a whole shitload of stuff over there, so check it out. I can't say too much in these little short videos. I don't get real deep on a lot of these videos now because I don't want to keep them. I want to keep them shorter than usually sometimes, because I was making like 2 and 3 hour videos sometimes. So anyway, that's not racism. Yeah, so systematic oppression, that includes the education system, the internal like white supremacy program, even like it's not even including like how the white Jesus program affects you intellectually, how the white Jesus program affects you, how the colonial program affects you on your own land, from how the Pledge of Allegiance affects you as an indigenous person, and spiritually, on the spiritual warfare, you don't even know that you're an indigenous person. You're saying the Pledge of Allegiance to a tyrannical pirate, destructive system that has raped and pillaged and destroyed your entire land and erased your history, poisoned all your, and so that story is like illegal, and many, like, to make it extreme so people can see what I'm talking about. Even saying that is like taboo. Why does it feel like that? Why does saying that real truth, that reality, why does it feel any kind of way? Why isn't that an accepted, like, oh, this is obvious, this is a real thing that happened? Why can't we even talk about it? Why is it an issue to even bring it up? Why is it automatically, why do I have to be labeled a racist for bringing up information that is that has a theme to it, that because not for no reason, because this information doesn't get shared, and I'm seeing it doesn't get shared enough. It's not getting spoken about in a so-called truther community. So I feel that space right there. Hey, check this out. Why isn't this in the conversation? And this shines a light on the difference between the conversations on the so-called, like, the like the live streams on the Bro Sanchez, like the people that go on there, and then you got the live streams on like Jaren and Glow Busters. They have their own thing, and then they're tied into the Mark and Patricia thing too. That's a whole world. And then, like, I don't really like affiliating with any kind of like labels or anything. That's why I don't like saying any kind of like real hashtags or anything, other than just like information based hashtags. Just not any kind of like label hashtags. That's cool and all, but I don't even dig on that really, because that's a whole nother thing. But anyway, I just wanted to tie these things in together so people can see this theme that I'm recognizing with these speakers, because it's something to watch in order. I mean, if you want to, obviously. if you to observe, to see how it's happening and what the agenda is going to be played. So obviously it's race, and they're trying to control the narrative of what race and racism actually means. So they're trying to keep you from going to the depths of the cancer of many other different systems, and that's what I'm saying. Another thing that I'm saying too is that it's more complex than the bad guys. See, a lot of people who don't do a lot of research, they just say that, and then they miss out. They misinterpret a lot of the things that I've been researching, that I'm including in the conversations, that that work undone gets showed when they just blabber out in the comment section about something they really don't understand. They really don't have no business talking about. So they just got to label you something. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, another quote that Owen Benjamin said is that Canadians mock us for our freedoms. So the belief in our freedoms, obviously, I mean, so these are just like the acceptable things that are in these vocabularies that we don't have in our vocabularies. And what I'm saying is that there's a whole separation of vocabularies that has created a universe that is really not, it hasn't really, there's a great divide in there as far as information. The language, the vocabulary doesn't include a lot of the stuff, and in their vocabulary, in their universe, it includes a lot of that stuff. It includes a lot of that accepted language. We don't accept a lot of this shit. The indigenous people don't even accept the fucking dramatic ass storylines that these motherfuckers are talking about on stolen land, on the blood and bones of fucking stolen land. These assholes are fucking tattletelling on each other about some old bullshit on stolen land. Ain't said a fucking word about that. Is that wrong for saying? Am I racist for fucking saying? I get the fuck out. I know I'm not racist for saying, because y'all don't even know what the definition of that is. You don't even know where that shit came from. Ain't even saying shit about the systematic oppression of a certain people. And to bring information, bring light on that, to bring a light, to bring an attention on the systematic oppression on a particular people, does not equate to saying that other people are not affected, that a whole shitload, like everybody is not affected in some kind of way from what's going on here. Saying that there is a systematic oppression upon a particular people doesn't mean that there's nothing happening to other people. But for dramatic, egotistical, adolescent-minded ass people who can't handle, or people who just don't even research and just all up in their emotions, and can't handle somebody saying that and knowing that truth, they have to label you and attack you about some old bullshit, or deflect, or tell, or say that you are incomprehensible, that they don't understand what you're talking about, or that you're wrong for saying what you're saying. These are all the tactics that these individuals use to control the narrative and keep you from going to the depths of where many other different people are coming from. That's what these narrative controllers are about. And they will demonize you in any kind of way. They will deflect from you in deflect from the conversation in any kind of way. Bob using vegan warrior was a deflection. For what? Because he couldn't really handle the conversation that he was really, really getting into when he was on Bro Sanchez's live stream, and he had me on there, and then D Marble was there, and then all these other, not building anything up, but the conversation could have got really fucking deep there, but it was just dramatized. It's some old bullshit, and he kept it on that. So this is another tactic, and these are these other tactics that Joe Rogan, Alex Jones, and Owen Benjamin used to dramatize everything. So he feels uncomfortable. He says that's not racist, and these individuals do not know how to even comprehend the language of systematic oppression of a certain people. It's not even in. They don't give a fuck. They're basically saying in that incomprehensible nature, get over it. something's wrong with you for even talking about it, when they just go all willy-nilly, saying this shit. And then excuse me, same thing with like Joe Rogan, just being so dense in that world to say some shit like, what the fuck, equate black people to fucking apes, and then that the white brain is smarter than the black brain, and then the only thing that the black thing is good for is the body. This is where we are. I'm not even gonna say we. This is where those motherfuckers are in 2019. This is your so-called truther community, mainstream connection, figurehead, satellite dishes, mind controllers, narrative controllers. 2019. That's how simple it is. That doesn't seem the slightest bit obvious to you, that it's like, or curious that it's that simple and it's that plain. It's like eating a mayonnaise sandwich on old bread in reference to depths of information. A mayonnaise sandwich with old bread. Can you live on that? You cannot die on that. Some people can live on that, lived on that on less than that. Selling it to you as a full course meal for the rest of your life. To control the narrative, to control the empire. To maintain, that's why they have to talk about jobs. That's like jobs. They're just saying slavery. Like slavery. No. You vote for us to tell you that it's cool. We'll get you jobs. We'll get you jobs. We'll talk about jobs forever. They're not going to talk about resources. They're not going to talk about that. The controlling, the wasting, the land. That's why these individuals exist, to keep you from talking about the land, the colonial empire, to control the resources. Next. So, yeah. Saying words like they mock us for our freedoms in a joke. Owen Benjamin talking about the Canadians mock us for our freedoms because they're all like uppity up there or whatever. They say it jokingly, but so you got to believe in our freedoms and all that other stuff. So they say this though. Right? They believe to sell this stuff. So he goes on this rant about his Owen Benjamin, that is, goes on this rant about his fan base, and his fan base is mostly white, Asian, and Jewish. But he doesn't say Jewish. He says Israeli. He says Jews all the time. And it slipped up. He's like whites, Asian, and Jews. I mean, Israelis. The good ones are Israelis. The Jews are the fucking Jews. So so once again, not even talking about the not Israeli. Like, what the fuck is their connection? This shit's all made up. It's all a fucking made up storyline. That's why he has to keep talking about like demonizing the Jews, because they don't want to go deeper than that whole storyline. This is why racism and white supremacy, mind control programming is an important issue to talk about, because this is tied up in world issues. You can't even talk. This is white people have difficulty with talking about the relationship between Israelis or Jewish people and so-called white people. They have issues with that. So in order to not deal with those issues, they would just avoid it, or just let them just demonize and not even get to the heart of the issue. So that's another issue that's not being spoken about. Why? Why isn't that truth being dissected? Why isn't that like something on the forefront? That talks with the power system and the so-called powers that be. Like I said, when I was breaking down the Margaret Patricia thing, you got that British flag on that guitar in the back of her live streams. Not talking about the mind control program and that's the blood. That's the blood. of the indigenous people. That's the colonialization. They're starting on that level the same way as Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, all that other. They accept that shit. That's their fucking language. They love that shit. It's still in their acceptable consciousness. They can't let it go. So much so that it's on the live stream every single day. It's repeated. It's that blood on that guitar. The same blood everywhere else on the other flags. Polynesia, Hawaii. And you can't even talk about it. Something's wrong with you if you even want to talk about this stuff. That's what they're saying. That's fucked up. That's real fucked up, man. Not to be like victimizing it. It's just a fucked up thing. To that even exist, that's why it's fucked up. It's not fucked up that it's happening. I don't give a fuck that it's happening. But for it to exist, if you're just sitting around and being like, you know, is it a problem for you to just be talking about shit that, you know, happened and how it's tied up in the psychological mind control programming of, you know, the inner structures of this entire empire? Is it a problem to say how this stuff exists? Nah. But it is for certain people, you know. On to the next thing. So, he says his fans are white, Asian, and Israeli, Jewish. And then he says, blacks are not his fans because blacks have low IQs. You know, this is all trigger, you know, stuff. This is to trigger all the race, the fake race war. The same way Black Lives Matter is out there to, you know, to control the narrative of the storyline. The same way the civil rights movement was to control the narrative of, and never addressed the systematic, you know, psychological programming of racism at that time. You know, people were getting lynched, you know, bombed. Black Wall Street happened, burned, you know, churches, you know, exploded, all this other stuff. It's bullshit. And then, another thing that Alex Jones says, and this is another co-opting thing, and it's empty, substanceless, it's dead. Things that these individuals say, just like Bob going on, you know, getting the My Black Friend, you know, sort of street cred thing, the same way the Behind the Curve gets the street cred thing by mentioning Bro Sanchez for that one little moment in there and Behind the Curve. They get that little boom. Hey, what's up? That little fist bump right there. Oh, fist bump. That's what that that's what that is in the Behind the Curve thing. But it you know, it's fake as shit. It's like, hey, homie. That's what the fuck that is. Hey, homie, give me a fist bump. But yeah, Bro Sanchez mentioned in Behind the Curve. So they do the same shit with like D Marvel's like, yeah, cool, black guy. He's cool, smart, does experiments, science, like us. Yeah, we like the science guy. You want to talk about racism? Oh, no. Yeah, me, like, Cell Infinity. He talks about the indigenous people. No, man, you can't talk about the indigenous people. Can't talk about a storyline. So, but acceptable. It's the My Black Friend thing, and it's what's the acceptable dialogue. This is not like a slight to D Marble. This is an expansion of an understanding of, you know, how people are used. People are fucking used. They use his ass in Behind the Curve, just the same way they use Bro Sanchez's name for that fake ass fist bump. Hey, homie. What's up, homie? But they still controlling the dialogue. They use people. They use the same way. So people get fucking used in there. Yeah. So anyway, that's what it was. Alex Jones used Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When he says in this video, I think it's his video. Yeah. He says, I believe in Martin Luther King. I'm trying not to be loud right now. I think it's kind of late. So, I believe. Let me try to get a low one, and try to get his voice. I believe in Martin Luther King. He didn't say Dr. Martin Luther King. He said, I believe in Martin Luther King. What the fuck does that even mean? That doesn't mean anything. So you see how they just use shit? It's just fucked up. It's like he's dead. And in 2019 to sell his "Make America Great Again" agenda, he says, "I believe in Martin Luther King." What the fuck? So empty. It's nothing. It's empty. So it's dramatized. It dramatized everything. And if they want to fuck with you, they only want to use you. And they'll say shit like, "I believe. I 100% agree with you. I completely agree with you. I believe in Martin Luther King. That means nothing." So anyway. So yeah, blacks are not his fans because blacks have low IQs. That's Owen Benjamin. He says that coincidentally, I think not. Right after Joe Rogan says this shit, so it's like it's like playing both sides, and playing like they're different, but they're saying the same storyline. It's causing chaos and confusion. That's why they're out there to do that, and they're maintaining the dialogue. They're controlling the narrative. That's what's happening with this conversation. And what they're not addressing is, like I said, the issues, the origins of the white supremacy mind control program. That is the issue behind why Joe Rogan said what he said. The issue is not that Joe Rogan said what he said. The issue is how Joe Rogan has the authority to say that and why he said what he said. It's not that. It's not the ignorance of what he said. People have said worse than that, obviously. And who gives a fuck about Joe Rogan anyway? But he said that, and then he's a big voice in today's community and so on and so forth. Anyway, this is to address the consciousness that is not being acknowledged. Not to push any race agenda or anything. This is to address the consciousness that is not being acknowledged. This information stream is not being acknowledged. So, on average, whites have the highest IQ. That's Alex Jones. Alex Jones. Yes. Okay, so yes, on the other video. On average, whites have the highest IQ. He's talking about I don't know who gives a fuck what he's talking about, but like I said, this ties into what is the IQ? So they tie in the IQ to the colonial university system, which was built on the blood and the bones of the indigenous people, and the white supremacy mind control program that includes the blonde hair, blue eye Jesus program. And that's the spiritual warfare, the psychological warfare. The university system is saying, they have the highest IQ. They're not including the genocide of people. They're not including the redlining, the creating of the inner cities on purpose and the suburbs on purpose to put broken schools, put certain people in. They're not including that. They're not saying that. They're just saying the IQ. So they're jumping over the origins and the reasons of why in order to maintain the agenda, in order to maintain the conversation, the narrative that maintains that they have the highest, biggest brains or smartest. This ties into, like I said before, the monkey evolution to technology, the smartest monkeys in the universe. Because what? Because technology, shooting rockets to Mars, that's their monkey stick. They have the biggest monkey stick by shooting a rocket to Mars. A red sports car to Mars. A convertible red sports car to Mars. That's the most fucking dumbest thing you could do. Like a kid would do that. So dumb. So they played that adolescent kid, commercial storyline that people were going to believe in technology like that. That's really it's really about the glory of technology. So yeah, all these things are happening in, like I said, these statements, these quotes that I just read off, they're all happening all in the same moment in time, like within a few days of each other. Well, Joe Rogan, he said that that hardcore racism shit about the apes the ape shit, and then the white brains are bigger than or smarter than black brains, and blacks are only, you know, good for their bodies. You know, they don't have any brains. It's obviously, he didn't say they didn't have any brains. He just said that white brains are basically better than black brains. It's so fucking ridiculous. So yeah, he said that a while back. That's an old video. But Alex Jones said, you know, on average, whites have the highest IQ just a few, you know, days ago, maybe something like that, or maybe today. And Owen Benjamin said blacks are not his fans because blacks have low IQs, you know, just today, like an hour ago or something like that. So this trend that's being, you know, pawned, you know, told in that whole storyline, keep that in mind. That's an agenda, that's a narrative that's being pushed by these individuals and a frame of consciousness. And in the forefront, they're saying what they're for. They're saying what they're against, and then they're saying what they're for is, like I said, they mock us for our freedoms. Owen Benjamin said that they mock us for our freedoms. So you have to believe in you have freedoms and all that other stuff. And then when you say they say, oh, you don't think we have freedoms? And then they say we have freedoms because in comparison to what? In comparison to third world countries or other countries who don't have freedom. Well, a lot of those countries don't have freedoms because of the colonial establishment around the world. The first world mentalities. The first world created the third worlds. See, they don't want to talk about that story. They just want to get, you know, you angry and talking about how, you know, you're ungrateful for your fucking white supremacy freedoms. Get the fuck out of here. So, black man's body with white person's brain. That's what Joe Rogan said. Black man's body with white person's brain. I'm trying to remember what that was. Black man's body with white person's brain. Oh, yeah. That's what he just said about the individual he had on his podcast. He said that to an actual person. So, that's pretty much it. Controlling the narrative. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the support. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.